Namaste. My name is Frank Buffalo. I'm a Subsequent Cree Nation Council member for Samson. My Indian name is Kehiwasis, which means eagle child. My take on truth and reconciliation at this time is how to find the truth and how to reconcile from it. From my own personal view, I look at truth as educating the people out there, educating our youth, our non-Indigenous and Indigenous students to make them understand what a lot of our elders and our ancestors went through as to what they experienced in residential school. I know that my parents both spent time in residential, and hearing their stories was just really disheartening. It gave me a lot of anger, but it also made me strong to understand that if we get apologies, even from the federal government, from the RCMP, and even the Cathedral Church, and that's happened. The Pope joined us in July of 25th of 2022. Again, Tim did a personal apology, to Musquechees on what we experienced and what our ancestors experienced. A lot of our relatives, our elders, are people that went through this time of colonization, what they tried to put us through, taking away our language, our traditional teachings, our culture, ceremonies. I look at that as one step towards the truth being out there and having people knowing that the church at one hand came out and made that apology for what happened, for all the abuse, the physical abuse, the physical and sexual abuse, the psychological abuse. Stephen Harper, Prime Minister at the time, did his formal apology to Canada, to Indigenous people, Inuit people, what we experienced and what we go through. How do we reconcile? How do we move forward? And how do we deal with what our people went through? The trauma, intergenerational trauma that continues to grow. Like, I know parents that dealt with a lot of this, took it home, and and their kids seen that. And my generation seen it, and just going into the next generation, getting the truth out there and how to reconcile from it, how to ask for forgiveness. It's hard to ask for forgiveness, especially when you have still a lot of our leaders and our elders that still have that anger, that thought that, that's still not good enough. I think as who we are, as people overall, it doesn't matter what minority, majority of race you come from. We have to all work together. We have to find ways to build that trust, to develop better opportunities. Even teaching in university and colleges would be awesome. We're going to be able to forgive, but not forget. But I think once people understand how this happened, they would have a better view on how even racism is in Canada alone towards Indigenous people, because we're only 5% of the population in Canada. At one time, we were a majority of Canada's population. With genocide going on, and this is a way of genocide. The way they treated our people. You put them through there because a lot of them didn't come home. A lot of them with the poor record system back then. We don't know who's lost and who's gone. I know they're still talking about different ways of finding grave sites. I know there are a lot of things going on in different communities. I know it started this past week. I look at that and I say, wow. And you see a lot of non-First Nations joining these groups when they go out and have these conversations and releasing their stories. A lot of them won't release their stories. A system where things just weren't fair. And, they cut their hair, they punished them for speaking their tongue of language. And, those are some of the things that everybody needs to understand and look at. And, it's going to be hard to educate. Everybody out there has their different opinions. But you look at the United Nations Declaration, there's an article there, and I think it's Article 43, that identifies that. Looking at who we are as people, not only in Canada, but overall in the world as Indigenous people, how to get that respect and be able to lead as our people and with the way we need to heal in that language, that, it's our Cree language, our Cree thinking, our Cree ceremonies that allow us to build, allow us to heal. We're grateful for some of the institutions that they're offering for people to go visit and be able to have that chance to go and deal with their trauma and what they experienced and to be able to release that there. But it's hard to try and teach that to your children. You must share with them because they have to understand what happened. Not to teach them in a negative way, but in a positive way of how to, reconcile that. Because we're so colonized in the way their system ran. It's now we have to find ways to decolonize and be able to be who we need to be, not only in our own territories, but overall, as we all have different territories we live in, and we're in Treaty Number 6. When you look at just Wetaskiwin alone, It's about bringing opportunity together. I know there's a meaning to it, but I think it's where we adapt to working together, building that relationship. And I think that's something we need to continue to do. I think it's just the awareness, getting out there and educating our children and educating those that don't understand. Because you have a lot of people coming into Canada and they don't understand the whole situation about what happened with Indigenous people in that era. But the truth is sharing the story, but also getting the apologies from where it came from. How do you reconcile from it? It's building a partnership with everybody. Trust is key. And just helping those that don't understand it and giving them that opportunity to learn from it and be able to work together. Apologize, my chief, Vernon Saddleback, couldn't be here for Samson today, but he is under the weather. But I was asked from an elder that was a survivor to come and make some comments about what I thought about truth and reconciliation. So September 30th, Orange Shirt Day. It's funny, a day they recognize what happened for a lot of our people, a lot of our elders that would have been here today, or some of those that dealt with so much, that went through so much trauma and so much addiction, so much things that led them to where they are. But I'm grateful that now that we're utilizing our ceremonies, we're utilizing everything that we need to do to build that back up and find who we really are as First Nation people, Indigenous people. And they made it a holiday for us to have that day, to experience this day and wear the color orange to represent that, to honor those ones that have lost it. But, today I wasn't really sure if I wanted to come in, because I experienced it from my own parents. It was a trying time. I've seen, even though they were leaders of the nation, they're both chiefs, and looking at that, and they led their nation, did well, but they still at the same time, they had this trauma on them from experiencing what they experienced in residential school. But they still did what they could to help us as children. They didn't want us to attend anything like that because they wanted us to have that opportunity to live and to be able to grow without dealing with the kind of abuse they encountered in their lifetime. And there was monies that were given out, so yes, it can help you get your life back in order, help you find ways to, reach out and get the proper healing that you need. Even that alone, for me, I looked at it, what kind of payment each individual should receive, each First Nation should receive, level 1 to 5. And really, it shouldn't even considered like that. And that's one of my things I have against the way everything was done and the way they tried to say sorry in a way that, it should have been something paid out at one lump sum, at something that where people, could have worked along instead of having to share their stories, because it takes a lot for someone to share a story. For me, I was in a school where a teacher banged my head around at the corner of the desk, and I experienced a gash in my head. I'd never want to see my children go through that. It's tough. Really, the same thing is happening right now. When you look at it, we had child welfare system that's still taking our children away. They're not trying to help our people heal. They take the kids away, then they make the people heal. But I think they should start at firsthand and say, okay, how do we do this? How do we help them build their self-esteem back from what they experienced? Maybe they didn't attend residential school, but they had someone in their family that attended. So we have to look at that and say, how do we help family to family, community to community, and how do we help, nation to nation? How do we build that trust back? But how do we ask our people to forgive? That's a tough one. It's hard to forgive because there's so much anger, so much experiences that they dealt with. I'm so grateful for ceremony with that. We help develop them and bring them back to who they originally were. Because a lot of people in our community don't speak the language. I, for one, understand the language. I can barely speak it. But that's where I need to develop that. I need to build that. I need to forgive. I need to, respect. Start learning what I need to learn from my own community and my own elders and my, even our leaders, to honor them. And, but in that way, I think that's the way reconciliation would help for me. And I don't speak for everybody because everybody has a different point of view on how they look at this. So, I just think it's building that trust, getting the message out there more, have more people attend these important event that, that's history of Canada, and history of our Indigenous people that we want to share that what happened. And I think that's what the key thing is, to just building that engagement, that partnership, and help each other and not work against each other. But that's all I can say right now. Except hi.